The next topic we're going to talk about, this is coming from DMA 30, section 11. And in this section, we're going to use part of what we learned in my previous video in section 9 and 10 using the proportion is over of, but it's going to be like a slight twist to it. So remember what we discussed before where we have the proportion. We have the percent over 100 and is over of. But this time, instead of using is over of, we're going to change it. And we're going to change it to the portion over the total. So once again, this is the same thing as saying is over of. But the reason why we're going to change it to proportion over total is because this time in this section, reading a word problem, we're not going to clearly find the word is or find the word of. We're going to actually have to read the word problem and know, is this number that we're talking about a portion of something, or is that number a total of something? That is sometimes difficult to do. So I did develop a plan. It's like a plan A, a plan B, where you can be helped with this kind of situation. So let's look at the first example in 1. See if I can make this a tad bit bigger. There we go. Okay. So we're going to write over here plan A, and then over here I'm going to put plan B. So here's my proportion for plan A. So we're still going to find the percentage, which is 4. The 100 still goes on the bottom left-hand corner. And now the other number that we're focusing on is the 230. Is that 230 a portion of something, or is it a total of something? Well, say that we don't know, we read the word problem, we're still confused about where to place it. Let's just place it in plan A as a portion, with our x being the total. And then we're going to come over here, write our proportion again. And this time, we're going to place it in the total spot. So when we work the math for both of these problems, and just for time's sake, I already have it worked out. When we actually put it on the bottom as a total, our x is actually equal to 5,750. If you want to check it, remember just multiply these two together first, and then come back and divide by the number left over. For plan B, our x is going to be equal to, in this one, 9.2. And both of these is considered to be in pounds. So let's look at both of these answers and see what actually makes sense within the word problem. Because what are we trying to find? We're trying to find the minimum weight resistance possible for a 230-pound man. So this man is in the weight room and he's pushing up some resistance. What is the minimum resistance of 4%? Well, 5,750, if you kind of equivalent that, that's the same thing as trying to lift a truck. So I don't think anybody can just push up bench press a truck. So this answer here really doesn't make any sense. 9.2 seems like more of a minimum weight resistance at 4% resistance for a 230-pound man. So this is the reason why, again, I set up this plan A and plan B, is because, again, if we get confused on where to place the proportion or the total, One of these answers is not going to make any kind of sense whatsoever if you put it back into the problem. So that should help us solve the majority of these problems in my Math Plus. So let's go down to the bottom, and we verify the man is the answer will be 9.2. Let's move to another example, and we're going to do number 4 this time. Let's go ahead and set up our proportion. And remember, we're going to do our plan A, and then we're going to do our plan B. So for plan A, we're going to put 39, that's our percent. 100 goes in the bottom left-hand corner. We have 57,000 that we're not sure about. So we're going to actually go ahead and try to put it on top first with our X on the bottom. And we're going to come back and do the whole thing again. And this time, we're going to throw it on the bottom and see what actually makes sense. So working this problem out, as I have already done, if we multiply the two numbers that we have and divide one, have one left over, this answer is going to be and we're just going to leave it as that. I'm going to take the decimal off. So 146,153 people. And over here, if we solve for X, so we multiply the two numbers that we have here and then divide by this one left over, we get our answer to be 22,230 people. So remember, this question is also tricky because sometimes these problems, there's a two-part problem. This is not our final answer, or this is not a final answer, but just look at it, compare the answers first. If we're talking about an increase of 39% and we already have 57 people already there working, this is a little bit too much more than a 39% increase of people coming into after 10 years. It's just a little bit too much. However, 22,230 seems like a reasonable for a 39% increase. So we're gonna go ahead and mark this one out because this one don't make sense. That's way too many people. And we're gonna mark off this one being the right answer. But once again, we have to be careful with the question. We need to predict the number of assistants that's going to be there after 10 years. Well, we know this is the increase, but after 10 years, how many total people is actually going to be there? Remember, there's already 57,000 people there already. With the increase of 22,230, we have to take both of these and add them together. So once we do that and add them together, our final answer is going to, our final answer is going to be 79,230. This is going to be actually the total number after 10 years. So be careful with these problems here. Now we have to worry about two things. Plan A and Plan B if we don't understand where to place it as a portion or a total. And now sometimes we have to go back into the problem and read and figure out, do we have to do an extra step? Well, this one we had to actually add these two together to get this answer. So here's our final answer once we add them both together. The next problem I want to go over is a method called percent increase or decrease. So here in the problem, when we see the direction says find the percent decrease, and sometimes they'll say find the percent increase. Well, I have a little formula that was going to help us out. When solving percent increase or decrease. So for here, if you want to title this in your notes, if we're trying to find the percent, probably better if I do it in black pen. So percent increase or decrease is this is where we're going to use this formula big number minus the small number, and we're going to divide it by, now whatever word makes sense for you, the original number or the starting number. They both mean the same thing, but sometimes a lot of students prefer different terminology. I'm just going to put starting number, but you can say original number. And then we're going to take this answer and multiply everything by 100. This is to change it to a percent. So let me get rid of this so we can work the problem. So looking at here, the big number in this case, looking at this problem, is going to be 201. The small number is going to be the 100. Now the starting number, in this case, if we're actually trying to find the decrease, in order for us to find a decrease, we actually need to start with a big number, and then we decrease down to a small number. That's the only way a decrease works, right? We have to start big in order to decrease to something small. So because we're talking about decrease, we're actually going to put the starting number to be the bigger number, which is 201. If the problem up here said increase, find the percent increase, then obviously this number on the bottom right here will be the smaller number in the word problem. So decrease, big number goes on the bottom. Increase, smaller number goes on the bottom. Maybe that's a little bit helpful for you to write down. Multiply this by 100, and once we do the math, we get 50.2%. And the reason why I put one decimal place is because I think in the word problem, it says we're going to actually round it to the nearest tenth spot here. So 10th spot is actually one place behind the decimal. So 201 minus 100 divided by 201, get our answer, times 100. And it's best if you do this part first, hit enter, and then times it by 100 to get the exact answer, or put this whole thing in parentheses. That's also helpful. And then times it by 100, and this is where we get 50.2%. So this will actually take us through section 11. And if you have any questions, please let me know.